Thank you. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My presentation is really going to share with you a tool or a method to help you to do some organisational learning, and that tool is benchmarking. If you've seen me present before, you've probably seen this slide before, and it's the way that I like to represent the importance of benchmarking to an organisation. This bird, as you probably know, is an ostrich. An ostrich is famous for burying its head in the sand when it's frightened by a predator. So if a big lion comes along, the story goes that an ostrich will bury its head in the sand. If that in fact was true, ostriches would not be around on the planet today. So this is actually a fallacy. It's not true. So ostriches do live in Africa, and they are alive. But the problem is that many organisations are like ostriches. What I mean by that is that they bury their heads in the sand. They're not open to new ideas. They're not open to transparent communication amongst their staff. They're not really designed to be effective organisational learning organisations. So organisations need to take their head out of the sand. Successful organisations in today's world are more like a falcon. If you think about a falcon, it flies over the next mountaintop. It's got fantastic vision. It's exploring new territories. This is what organisations need to be like. They need to look outwards rather than just inwards. And this is what benchmarking helps organisations to do. It helps organisations to look outwards. Yes, it's important to know your own systems, your own structures, but to survive in today's world, you also need to look outwards. I don't mean just about knowing what your competitors are doing in terms of their products and services. You need to see how other organisations have become successful and learn from them. So this is what you need to think about, is how you can become a falcon. If we look at the history of benchmarking, all the pioneering work done in benchmarking was done in Rank Xerox in the 1980s. In the 1980s, Rank Xerox were in danger of going out of business. They'd seen their market share drop from 86% of the world market share down to 17%. So they needed to do something dramatically different. They got a new senior management team inside their organisation. And I said, look, we've got to do something different here. We just know we can't compete with the way that we're currently organising, the way we're currently operating. And what they did differently was say that we're going to introduce a systematic method for learning. They introduced a 10-step methodology for learning from other organisations. And that methodology became known as benchmarking. The other thing that they did was to say, we're not just going to learn from organisations in our own industry. We're not just going to learn from our competitors. We're going to learn from any organisation who's better than us. We're going to find out how these other organisations have become successful. So they learned from Honda for supply development. They learned from American Express for the financial control systems. They learned from Ford for factory layout. They learned from Toyota for the quality management systems. So any organisation had best practices, they tried to learn from them using a systematic methodology. They undertook over 200 benchmarking projects, and in a period of 8 years, they became recognised as world-class. They were the first organisation to win the European Foundation for Quality Management Excellence Award in Europe, and the first organisation to win the Baldrige Business Excellence Award in the United States. Since that time when Rank Xerox pioneered this benchmarking approach, benchmarking is now used all around the world. It's recognised as a valid approach to help your organisation to become better at what it does. So benchmarking is recognised as #1 in the world. This is a Bain & Co study from the United States, but it covers all countries around the world. Also, to become an organisational learning organisation, I mean, we talk about organisations, but some countries have really adopted these principles of learning and using benchmarking. There's no better country, I believe, that's effective at this than Singapore. If we just skip through this one here, if we look at Singapore, Singapore is #1 now for customer service in the public sector. They've really taken on board the fact that they should use benchmarking as a means for improvement. I was at a conference 2 years ago in Indonesia, and there was a government minister there from Canada, and he said to me, says, Robin, you know what, Canada always used to be #1 in the world for customer service in the public sector. The reason why we're not #1 anymore is because we had so many government representatives from Singapore to come and learn from our organisations. This is why Canada is not #1 in the world for the public sector for customer service, it's Singapore. If you look at the ease of starting a new business, the best place to be is in Singapore. If you look at world competitiveness, Singapore was #3 last year, it's #2 this year. If you look at the UAE, it's #40 in the world, but 3rd in the Middle East. If you look at global competitiveness, the UAE, it's not showing on there. I think it's about number 25. If we look at homicide rates, it doesn't matter what international measure you look at. Singapore is usually in the top 10, often in the top 5, and in many cases #1 in the world. So if you look at homicide rates, Singapore is #4 in the world. It's better to be at the bottom of this slide. The UAE is #23 in the world. If we look at digital economies, Singapore is #8 in the world. UAE is #32. If we look at life expectancy, Singapore is #7 in the world. UAE is #33. In the UAE, you're expected to live to 78 years old. You can extend your life by going to live in Singapore for 3 years. So you can extend your life by 3 years by living in Singapore, or extend your life by 4 years by going to live in Japan. Singapore is #3 in the world for innovation, from one study, and #1 based on another study. The UAE is #34, but the UAE is very good at some aspects of innovation. The amount of linkages you've got with academic institutions worldwide and other fantastic businesses worldwide is bringing back a lot of knowledge into this country. And in terms of your education system, if we look at the education system from the PISA study in 2009, we find that 4.1% of 15-year-old students are top achievers. This is a talent for the future. So it's 4.1% of people are top achievers in the OECD countries, which is 37 countries. The country now which is leading the way, or the region which is leading the way for their education system is actually, it's not showing on here, I think it's using a different technology, but the country that's leading the way is now Shanghai in China. It's acknowledged having the best education system. It has 14.6% of their population are now considered to be top achievers. This is a potential for the future. Singapore is 12.3% of their people are top achievers. In Dubai, it's 2.3%. There's no figures at the moment for Abu Dhabi. And the average, as I say, we can see from the OECD countries is 4.1%. This is why there needs to be a huge emphasis on education, and of which there is a huge emphasis now in this region. Now just quickly going back to some slides here. I did a study for the Asian Productivity Organization a few years ago, looking at those organizations that have become successful in terms of excellence. These looking at organizations that have won Business Excellence Awards, similar to the one in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and finding out what they're doing differently. Here you can see a whole set of tools and techniques an organisation can use to improve their performance for leadership, for strategic planning, customer focus. There's lots of methods you can use. All of these are indeed organisational learning tools because they help you to know more about your systems. They help you to know more about what you can do to improve your organisation, whether you're a leader or whether you're working on the operational side of the business. So all these are tools and techniques that can help you on your journey. But when we actually studied this and studied these award winners from all these different countries, we found that award winners were more likely to use 5 of these tools and techniques. And one of them, interestingly enough, is a corporate social responsibility program. Another one was, I think, an anomaly, which is SWOT analysis, because every organisation should use SWOT analysis. The other ones were improvement teams, lean, benchmarking and knowledge management. So again, emphasising the importance of these particular methods. So really have a look at those tools and techniques and see whether you're using them inside your organisation. Just quickly going back to Singapore, the reason why Singapore is so successful is because they've embraced excellence, they've embraced benchmarking, and they've had very strong leadership with Lee Kuan Yew, who was a leader for many, many years within Singapore. And in a sense, what Singapore have done is say they've really focused on excellence, but it's been led by the leadership. And this is what, you know, if we're looking around the world today, there are best practices that they're readily available to learn from. You can learn from other countries, you can learn from other organisations. The internet now can help you to learn.